So what would you say the first step is for, so this is what I have so far. The first step in deciding where you want to go is to visit other places, see how you feel about the culture, just the economic, the finance, start making your plan, minimizing your income so that you could actually have money, save money, and get prepared, knowing where, looking at the global index to see whether or not it's a peaceful area that you might want to consider going to. Then you would look at what type of visas they have: retirement visas, digital nomad visas, investment visas. Look at the time that you have to re up your visa, if it's 6 months, if it's a year, and then look at some of the opportunities that may be available for either working, schools, like if they are, they have a organized education system, or if not, look at some kind of homeschooling options. And then the other thing I would say, based on our conversation, you would say plan to have a play. Think about the why, like what's forcing you to go. And then what are you purposed to do if that's going to be necessarily a place that you stay in. And then ultimately, you want to kind of start anticipate a year to 18 months for a transition. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think we reorganize it. We'd start with why first.
Yeah.
That's
Why
what we do.
first? Correct. Yep.
What we do on our videos, in our workshops. We do have multiple workshops, move abroad, starter workshops a year on Zoom and whatnot. And we always start with why.
Why
What is
you
that?
want to
Our
go?
goal of success.
Yeah.
I think minds, identity / why, mindset, and then the processes you just went through. All that research.
Okay.
You got to start with who you are and what works for you first. Otherwise, all that
Right.
logistics, depending on
Right.
who you are, it's gonna actually overwhelm you. But why and who you are and what you want to do, whether something's forcing you, whether something's inviting you, or something in between, that can inform all the other research practices of budgeting, immigration, it's real estate, etc. If you start with you, because you are living abroad, we want
Right.
people to remember you're still alive, you and your family.
Mhm.
It's not, it'll feel like a job, but we don't want you to feel like a product or a job clocking in, clocking out. It is for your livelihood. And so it's got to begin
Yeah.
with you, your
I
identity, and
think,
your.
and I think I like that the process is different. I think one of the things that I would love to do, I think a lot of people do, is they buy a home where they would be interested in moving to. And like a couple of friends of mine bought places in Aruba. Some people I know are buying things in Italy, not Africa, because I think Africa is a misnomer. People just don't know, it can be overwhelming. But then they start Mexico City, Panama. So then they start looking at, okay, if I like this place enough to own property to come visit, and then it becomes an investment opportunity. And then the second piece is I'm entering retirement or thinking about retirement, or just need to leave because of my why. Would this be a place that I would want to live in? And so I think that is what I've been hearing. The process that people are taking instead of just jumping out there so soon.
Yeah. One of the things I guess I would ask you is the demographics of your viewers, your listeners. If my wife and I looked at a $300,000 beach property in St. Kitts Nevis on the north end of the island, which is very quiet, and but this place is so on the water that while we were staying at the other place that my mentor owned, literally a huge crab crawled up the what do you call it, the overhang,
The patio.
the patio thing. Yeah. That's how it's on the water like that. Okay, when the ocean, it's
Tide
there.
was coming in.
But my point is that sometimes, so we've done about, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 cohorts of some type of workshops. And so the number of attendees might be 5 people, 8 people, 11 people. And some of our demographics, the folks are not able to make a $300,000 purchase like that. And they're saying to us, okay, so help us to arrange the thinking around that. How can we, they're asking the right question instead of how are we going to be able to do it? What would it take to be able to accomplish their goal? And so um, one of the things we'll recommend is, well, don't do your scouting trip until you have determined your why, found out what your deal breakers are,
Yeah.
find out what your dream world looks like, check out the education system, check out the pet system if that's your thing, check out the religious system if you want, and come up with a objective rating system. We call it a country rating system.
That's what we made, yeah.
So I'm a motorcyclist and I would go buy a motorcycle. I'm sorry, I'm going to look at motorcycles, right? And on Monday, I want one with a gas gauge. That's very important to me, right? On Wednesday, I see a motorcycle that has, instead of a chain, it has a shaft driven like a car. Low maintenance. I like that. Okay. Then on Friday, I'm looking at a motorcycle that maybe has hard shell cases so Marlene can ride with me on the back and whatever. And we can go further away, 4 or 5, 6 hours away, right? But what I'm doing is I keep shifting the goalposts. If before I go to look at motorcycles, I say, you know what? Got to be a gas gauge, got to have a shaft driven, must have a windshield, a wind jammer. I want, instead of spokes, I want mag wheels so I don't have to be adjusting the spoke wheels. And then when I go to look at motorcycles, I then rate them according to this standard that I have set. It'll keep me from fluctuating Monday, Wednesday, Friday. In other words, you tend to like the last thing you saw. And so
True.
what happens is if you look at countries just being a keyboard captain or whatever they call that, and looking on the internet and say, okay, it's like Taiwan offers me this, Costa Rica offers me that, Namibia offers me. You get 15 countries, and then you whittle that down with the rating system I just said to you, and we teach people how to do that. You whittle it down to then maybe 3 or a couple of countries. You're saving money. You've also been a good steward of your money and your time. And because you're only going to make 1 or 2, you're going to combine trips and do a scouting trip. And when you do that, you're not doing a vacation because a scouting trip is different than a vacation. So my point is to have an as objective as you possibly can versus subjective. And the way to do that is reduce your number of 15 countries down to about 2 or 3. And I just tried to use a motorcycle example as an analogy or metaphor to see.
I think for our listeners, some people have never even thought about this as an option. Like they don't even know that they never considered because they don't know where to start. So
Yes, ma'am.
all of this is good because, I personally would want to visit a couple of times on vacation and then also start my scouring trip because I don't want to be anywhere that I wouldn't want to live anywhere that I wouldn't necessarily want to be consistently. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I think for some people, they don't even, they think they got to just stay here and take it. But this is the first time that they're hearing that there's another option on the table.
Yeah.
And that was such a blessing, when Tiffany, the producer, and I talked about doing this podcast because I never even considered, like I said, Africa. And from what you're telling me, this definitely I'm going to put my little rating scale together and look consistently at the things that I know now to look for, which I would never consider before. So this has been incredible. And then for people, I think you have people at different levels. There's some people who are just surviving. And then there are some people, and when I say surviving, they just are trying to not be put out, have their mortgage taken care of. And then there are other people who are a little bit in the middle, which is why we don't do the political thing because it really doesn't make a difference. We're all struggling, some of us in different ways. And then they're just frustrated. And then there are people who have the resources, but they just don't know how to start the process. So we kind of cover the gamut. And I think $1,500 in the bank account for some people, I'm just thinking about from Zanzibar, is a very viable opportunity for people. And I think people would take it with the right guidance of knowing the process. And then I think for people who
Mhm.
are more entrepreneurial like me, it's like I have to have other things in place, but I also want to be still engaged and challenged from a professional perspective. And so there's opportunity there. So this has been excellent. It
Oh,
has been
good.
excellent.
Oh, good.
So what's next for y'all?
Oh,
Oh, that's
opening
good.
up for business
Yeah,
point of
yeah. To
view.
your point of business, opening up for business, we've interviewed some business owners in the past, and
Mhm.
we're developing some next episodes to really get into that more. We did just celebrate 2 years with a friend of ours, Ashley Weston, who's a world-renowned chef. She's from Philly, and she launched her restaurant, The Box, in Stone Town, Zanzibar, 2 years ago. So we just celebrated, the community celebrated with her last week, depending on when this episode goes up, 2 years. And she's been getting a lot of not feedback, a lot of buzz from different people. And we're wanting to talk to her again just about what's possible. Everyone might not be launching a restaurant, but that's some things that we want to get into some more to let people know there are people very serious like yourself wanting to invest, start businesses, work locally, work with a team to bring whatever people need. Could be money, could be food, could be education, could be cosmetics, could be entertainment, whatever. To whether it's Zanzibar, Tanzania, or just any other country, we're going to be launching a new series or continuing a series, just showing people this is possible, and hopefully that it'll spark whatever it is that's in you to do that.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
possible to do this thing abroad. We rub elbows with a lot of different entrepreneurs here, and which is really good because it keeps you sharp, keeps you inspired, keeps you ready to execute.
And you have a lot of digital nomads there too, I could imagine.
Yeah, we've talked to people who are into IT, like my brother Daniel. We know a couple of people, one of which we've interviewed. He, I think, does cybersecurity. The one that I'm thinking of, Mr. Rob. Another one started, I think, his own IT firm. If I have that right, he's further north in Zanzibar doing his thing. So yeah, you have a lot of digital nomads doing things like copywriting. I've been done a copywriting internship, and we know some other people. That's primarily what they do. Copywriting for different firms, be it education, especially edutech. In fact, the person I'm thinking of right now. So yeah, I said a lot there, but there is a lot of opportunity, and so we launched the channel to show people how to get started. And I guess we're halfway through 2025 already. That's
I can't
crazy.
believe it. It is crazy.
With the remaining months, we're going to be full steam ahead on developing and producing more segments about expat entrepreneurship and what's possible. We're going to continue to be educating people in our workshops, also in our masterclass, which you can subscribe to via our YouTube channel. Thank you for sharing that so people can get access to it. Where we give people more of a more behind the scenes of the in-depth story that we gave you at the top of the show of what our process was, the tutorials and guides that Dad and the family has come up with, and how to execute those things like the country rating system, etc. But in a way that's not overwhelming you and things.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
more expert entrepreneurship and more tutorials and segments of people to show them what's possible in the remaining 2025.
So what would you say as we wrap up were some of the risk and some of the rewards for making your big transition?
Risks involve missing your family, missing our grandchildren.
Mm,
Um, you didn't ask us, but we have been back to the States on two occasions. One of them was simply because my mother had transitioned. She was
mm,
97. And that was last October. Um, and so there's that family connection. Um, I think that of risk could be if a person isn't flexible and allow themselves to detox from the West. You don't realize, I forgot what they're called, but you have bias. We all have biases, invisible biases. And the deal is they're blind spots. And you don't realize that things are triggers for you and they set you off. And you think that's the way it ought to be done. This is the right way to do things. So
Mhm.
I think that's a huge risk. I think some of the positive things are, wow, I feel healthier. He told you my wife is 70, I'm 65.
Oh,
I feel
wow.
um, the friends of mine who came from Maryland and or other expats, we see them and they're like looking leaner,
Mm.
getting sunshine.
Yes. Vitamin
Blunt.
D is real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me just say this: Black people need to be in the sun.
Yeah, that
Now,
part.
Yes.
go and research that, listeners, and go find out. But it's the sun.
It's true.
You can spell it SON if you want. But the
Right.
deal is spending that time there and learning to be more relational and really slowing down when the guard asked me how Josiah is. He already went through that with you, but learning to apprehend and appropriate that relationship thing. That's a real big positive.
And
Yeah.
creativity as well, because we've had to be more creative. We'll be discussing that on a conference tomorrow. That's right, this weekend. I mentioned Ashley in Africa, who's become a friend. She's an entrepreneur based in South Africa, but splits time between Tanzania, and invited us to speak on her latest summit. We'll be talking about creativity because you have to be flexible again, like Dad said. I thought that I was going to tear up Hollywood. You know, my best friend and I had plans to do that and everything, and he's doing his thing there, and it's awesome. Coming into his director hat, and that's great. And I'm transferring my screenwriter skills and production skills here, and it just looks different. I've had to kind of access a different part of my brain. I've had to also accept like different identity things that are causing me to thrive, like still living with my family, but in a house that's got my name on it, and there's no
Mhm.
mortgage, you know, and then I've got two other properties being constructed with my name and my brother's names on it. And I'm not saying people aren't doing that in the States. That's great. But you asked us, so that's how my life is looking. And I'm like, wow, you know, I have to sit down and count my blessings and remember that when things are tough, sometimes it's tough because I don't take to Swahili that well, and
Mhm.
it'd be nice to hear a little bit more English more often, or to be spending
Mhm.
time risks. Like I miss my best friend and my cousins and my brothers. And so that
Mhm.
familiarity can be very tough sometimes. But then there's also, you know, been with my girlfriend almost 3 years now, learning a new language, learning, you know, Maasai culture, getting to know her siblings. Her
Oh,
entrepreneurial spirit is really rubbing off on my family and I. So we're learning from her, as well as
right.
what do her countrymen need and what benefit can we be to of them. Because I'd also like to say we don't ascribe to that whole expats are bad for the environment. Only
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
doing it wrong, and
Right.
the local government will let you know. There are heartbreaking stories. Yes, there are, but those people are being dealt with. There are heartbreaking stories all over
Wow.
the world of, you know, expats not doing right by the community. Don't worry, they'll get
Mhm.
there because they're not from there and they're not trying to immerse and be a part of it. We are slowly but surely, not trying to pat myself on the back, but here in Swahili land, they call it kidogo kidogo, slow, slow. Dad was talking about taking your
Mhm.
time, resting, keeping Sabbath for those who want to do that, taking time to
Mhm.
take time, even if it's just a few hours to get in
Right.
touch with yourself. But I said a lot there. All of that has been certainly a mixture of the risks and rewards of
But that's
living
the reason
abroad.
why
Not
a lot of people, everything you said is the reason why a lot of people want to leave the US, though.
Yes. And so I'm becoming a new person. He's becoming a new person, becoming the best version of ourselves. Some days are better than others, but we haven't quit. And it's possible if it's for you. Again, he started the channel with this idea. Your dream, whatever it is, in this case, moving abroad, is saying, wake up. And I really feel like I've woken up 5 years ago. I found it. I wrote in a journal, and then I found it 3 years ago when we were planning to leave. I had written in my journal, "Visit Africa." 5 years later, I'm living here, and I found it literally while packing and downsizing to get ready.
Wow.
And
To
I'm like,
move to
"Oh,
Africa.
I forgot all about. I forgot all
Right.
about this." But it's real, and so that's for me been some of the risk and reward. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You have, oh my God, we have a playbook. We will actually put all of your confirmation information in the description so people can actually follow you as well and download
Awesome.
all the information so they know how to move, what to do, and take some of your workshops. Because I think people now don't have the excuse that they don't know where to start and they don't know what to do, because we pretty much nailed that and then some in this interview. So there's no excuse. I'm a person of no excuses. We don't have any excuses now for what we need to do if we want to make some kind of transition, not to heaven, but to heaven. All right. Thank
Nice.
you guys so much. I really appreciate having you on the podcast. I can't wait to get the feedback and to get this one out there, because I think Africa is really rising and a lot of people are interested. And I think this is going to be really good for people.